Welcome to the VOPAC Terminal Visitor Safety and Health Orientation Program. Visitors at a VOPAC terminal are required to complete an orientation program annually or when significant changes in the terminal make additional training necessary. If you have questions or concerns at any time, please address them to the VOPAC personnel or a security officer.
VOPAC is committed to the protection of the environment, the safety and health of VOPAC employees, customers, suppliers, and all those involved as an integral part of our business. VOPAC provides a secure work environment in which our business can be carried out safely and successfully. I'm Charles Bradley, the General Manager for the East Coast, and I'm committed to the safety and health of all personnel on site. This orientation program is specifically designed for visitors on the terminal. The major areas of focus for you as a visitor on a VOPAC terminal are understanding the VOPAC fundamentals, complying with the zero-tolerance PPE policy, and practicing good hazard recognition. Every person on the terminal, including you, has both the right and the responsibility to immediately stop unsafe work before an injury, spill, or property damage occurs. Please be attentive to this orientation program and be an active part in the VOPAC commitment to safety, health, and environmental protection. The VOPAC fundamentals represent 8 critical areas of focus to ensure safety and health. The fundamentals most important for visitors are permit to work, working at heights, and motorized vehicles. The critical requirements in these fundamentals will be covered in this program. The zero-tolerance PPE policy is a one-strike and you're out policy. In all operating areas of the terminal, basic PPE includes hard hats, safety glasses with side shields, long sleeves, long pants, and protective footwear. Consequences of failure to properly utilize PPE will include immediate removal from the terminal, notification to your employer, and restriction of future access to the terminal, either temporary or permanent. This may also result in further disciplinary action by your employer in accordance with their practices. As a visitor to the terminal, your familiarity with the location and routine operations may be low. Because of this, it is very important that you maintain a high level of awareness of all activities in your immediate area. Recognize hazards around you to avoid them. As a visitor, you should always ensure that you know where your VOPAC host or escort is located. They are your primary guardian during your visit. Keep track of the nearest exits so that you can evacuate in the event of a fire. Maintain a sense of direction to the main entrance. This is the emergency evacuation muster point. Look both directions when walking. Truck, car, and rail traffic may not be easily predicted. Be aware of the ground, both paved and unpaved, to avoid trips and fall hazards. Follow all restrictions on the use of electrical equipment in operating areas to prevent fires. Recognize potential chemical exposures. Handrails and puddles in operating areas are both examples.
These basic rules apply at all locations on the terminal. No smoking anywhere inside the facility. Smoking is permitted past the stop sign outside the main gate. No mobile phone use, except inside office areas. The site speed limit is 15 miles an hour. Safe speed is always to be limited based upon traffic and weather conditions. Firearms are strictly prohibited. No horseplay is allowed. Never operate any valve without specific instruction, authorization, or qualification granted by VOPAC personnel. The terminal is under constant video surveillance.
VOPAC terminals are regulated by the Maritime Transportation Safety Act that is monitored and enforced by the United States Coast Guard. VOPAC terminal security program levels are determined in part by the Maritime Security MARSEC level in effect. MARSEC 1 is the normal risk level. There is no known immediate threat and security measures are basic access control and surveillance. MARSEC 2 is a heightened risk level. There is a heightened awareness of a known non-specific threat that requires additional site security controls such as increased inspection and reduced traffic. MARSEC 3 is an imminent risk level. There is a serious risk due to a known specific threat that could impact the terminal, causing severe site security control including restriction of access to all but critical VOPAC personnel. This terminal requires a Transportation Worker Identification Card, TWIC, for access, with limited exceptions. VOPAC may search or inspect vehicles and personnel at any time. Under the Terminal Facility Security Plan, you have limited security responsibilities. These responsibilities are 1. Recognize security risk you might observe. These could include items such as potentially dangerous devices or substances out of place, suspicious persons in inappropriate locations, or suspicious activities such as cutting fences or propping gates open. 2. Report any security risk you observe immediately to VOPAC personnel or a security officer. Do not attempt to intervene directly. Your duty is to report, not to respond. While we strive to maintain an incident-free terminal, it is important to be prepared to respond to an emergency at any time. The following are some basic emergency response facts. The terminal operates a site-wide siren to warn of evacuation. The local emergency response number is 911. All emergency radio traffic is carried on the main terminal channel, not maintenance or support channels. Most terminal staff are CPR, first aid, and AED trained. While VOPAC values your desire to assist others in the event of an emergency, never provide any emergency assistance beyond your skill level. In the event of an evacuation, the terminal siren will be sounded. A test of the siren is conducted weekly. The test is always preceded by a notification on the terminal's main radio channel. In the event of an evacuation, immediately cease and safely secure all loading and unloading operations. Proceed immediately to the main entrance of the terminal and muster outside the main gate. Do not start or drive vehicles, including your truck. Evacuate on foot. If an evacuation is needed, do not panic and follow any VOPAC instructions to a safe exit point. Always know where the closest eyewash shower is before you begin working. Should you become exposed to chemicals at the terminal, the following emergency decontamination measures are to be used immediately after contact. Proceed to the nearest eyewash shower station and begin to flush and soak the affected body parts. Remove contaminated clothing, as this may keep the chemical in contact with your skin. Continue to flush the affected area and call loudly for help. VOPAC may require evaluation by a physician before you are released to ensure your health and safety. Take a moment to identify the locations of the nearest fire extinguishers and spill cleanup materials before you begin work. Every effort is made to prevent fires and spills on the terminal. If one should occur, however, you should know that portable fire extinguishers are located throughout the terminal. Always call for help immediately in the event of a fire. Only use an extinguisher on a small fire and evacuate the area. Spill response and cleanup materials are located near every loading station. Always call for help immediately when a spill occurs. Immediately stop the source of the leak or spill when it is safe to do so. In the event of an emergency, always follow VOPAC instructions to ensure your safety.
If any incident occurs, you must notify VOPAC personnel or a security officer immediately. You should also notify your employer when appropriate. The following are all events that should be reported: a chemical spill of any size, a vehicle accident regardless of damage, occupational injury on the terminal, near miss or a close call, or an unsafe act or condition. Reporting these items will help VOPAC improve safety and health for everyone on the terminal. Protection from the chemicals we handle daily is critical to preventing injury and illness. Basic PPE is required in all operating areas of the terminal as described earlier. In addition to the basic PPE requirement, more specific PPE is required based upon both the chemical being handled and the task being completed. Defining PPE requirements is a combination of available chemical safety information, such as MSDS, your carrier or employer policies and procedures, and VOPAC minimum standards. The VOPAC PPE matrix is a researched document that provides chemical-specific PPE requirements for all the chemicals handled by the terminal. It is important that all PPE be used correctly in order to ensure that it will provide adequate protection. If you have questions about PPE at the terminal, please ask VOPAC personnel. All visitors must have a valid state-issued driving license appropriate for the vehicle they are operating. Driving is one of the highest risk activities you can influence. Driving safely can prevent injuries, spills, and property damage. Please be certain to wear your seatbelt at all times while in motion, obey the terminal speed limit and reduce your speed based upon the conditions around you, be mindful of traffic such as trucks, golf carts, SUVs, always yield to pedestrians no matter where they are. There are no designated crosswalks. Watch for and stop at all stop signs. Rail spurs in the terminal are not marked with closing gates or signs in many locations. Be attentive for them. All cars and trucks must be in safe and serviceable condition for their purpose. This includes appropriate state, local, and federal inspections and certificates. VOPAC reserves the right to inspect and refuse access to vehicles that pose an excessive risk. Walking and working safely above ground level requires extra attention to detail. If you are visiting and require access to a tank, a loading platform, the dock hose tower, or any other elevated location, you should remember the following points. 1. Many of the stair angles are steep, especially on and around the tanks. 2. Only walk or work in elevated areas protected by handrails. 3. Grading can sometimes be sharp or uneven. Catching on boot soles could contribute to a trip. While we strive to maintain a safe workplace, smaller items can sometimes be left on steps or platforms. Be aware of your walking surface and use handrails on stairs. If you find an article on a step, please bring it to the attention of a VOPAC employee or a security officer. In rare cases, you may utilize a portable platform or ladder. Portable platforms should be in good condition and stabilized before use. Ladders are never used unless no safer alternative is available. As a visitor, you are not permitted to use fall arrest systems. You may not work at an unprotected height. All non-routine work on a VOPAC terminal is controlled by a permit to work process. As a visitor, the work you may do on the terminal is very limited. If you require a permit to do more extensive work or deal with greater hazards, you must complete the contractor orientation. Visitors may be issued a general work permit only. The following items cannot be allowed under a general work permit: construction or demolition, installation, repair or maintenance, confined space entry, lockout tagout, or handling of any hazardous materials. Examples of activities that can be permitted under a general work permit include visual examination, taking photos, or handling non-hazardous materials. General work permits include these elements: persons authorized to do the work, specific equipment or processes covered by the authorization, identification of hazards, required controls for the hazards, specific instructions related to the authorized work, exposure concerns in the area or tasks, required PPE, atmospheric test results, signed authorization to complete the work, termination of the permit at completion of the work. Work permits must be issued and authorized by VOPAC employees. The permit must be kept at the site where the work is occurring. All permits are void and work should cease immediately if the emergency alarm is sounded. If you have any questions related to your work permit, please contact the VOPAC employee that signed the permit. Thank you for supporting safety and health by working within VOPAC policies and applying good old-fashioned common sense to your work on the terminal. If you have any questions or concerns, please discuss them with VOPAC personnel.